I've got the trainer here that I put together for this CLICK PLC, and it's got 8 inputs, 6 outputs to go along with the digital card on here. The CPU is the C2-01 CPU, and the digital card is the C2-14D1. Got it connected up here. And this trainer I made, got a $8 piece of whiteboard material from Home Depot and some scrap wood. I made a little frame for it, did the wiring underneath. I've got some normally open and normally closed devices. And you've got normally open push buttons on inputs X1 and X2. Normally closed on X3 and X4. A selector switch. It's open when it's to the left, and it's closed on the right. Push button down here, X8, and 2 normally closed limit switches on X6 and X7. My outputs, these are 24 volt LED indicators on Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, Y5, and Y6. Right now, I have a test program connected into it where I push an input, it'll trigger some of the outputs. X1 will turn on output 1. X2, output 2. X3, output 3. X4, output 4. X8 will also do output 4. Then, the selector switch, if I turn it to the right, it'll allow the limit switch on the right to operate it. And if I turn it to the left, the limit switch on the left will operate the other output. Now you saw the connections that I had on the outside of the PLC, and this is a little test program put together to go and test all that and what was making the lights operate and everything. It's all of 6 rungs here, and you can see X1 drives Y1, X2 drives Y2, X3 drives Y3, X4 or X8. This is considered an OR statement. Either one of these two will drive at Y4. Now this is an example of an AND statement where you have X5 and X6 will turn on output Y5, and then again X5, but notice a different state here, and X7 will turn on Y6. I wrote this all up. We'll go and connect to the PLC. We start by clicking on connect, and I'm using the COM port. If you don't know what COM port, select this. You should see CLICK Plus, but if you don't, you'll need to use a device manager to select that. We're using USB. We're not using serial or Ethernet, although you could do both. And I've got my USB cable plugged into the PC and into the PLC. Now if you want, make sure your connection's okay, you can blink the run and air light. So if I click on that, you'll see your air lights blinking back and forth. So I know that works, so I'm going to go ahead and hit connect. Now this message is telling me there's differences in the PLC and the project currently open to software. So I do not want to overwrite, and so I'm going to click don't read the project from the PLC. Okay. Okay, now I look up here, I'm online, and the PLC is running, and I look down at the PLC and I see the run light, and it is on. Now I'm going to go write the project, but before I do that, I want to stop the PLC. Before I give it new instructions, I want to stop the PLC. Okay, now it tells me, yep, let's stop it. And now I'm going to come up here and write. This is the project name. that's going into the PLC. It gives you some statistics and everything about it as you're writing your PLC program. If it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you'll see how close you are to filling up the PLC. Okay. And the PLC is currently in stop mode. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Now it's going to switch the mode. We want to go ahead and make it run. If there's something else you wanted to do at this point, you could click stop to keep it into the stop mode. But at this point, we want to fire it up and get going. Now, I'm looking at this. Nothing really changed. I came up and I clicked the status. That's running for status monitor. And I'm going to push on X1. Okay? Unclick the status. And I push X1 and nothing happens. I don't see anything. So make sure you click on status, and that'll tell you what's happening out there in the PLC. Now I'm going to flip the selector switch. Okay. And start pushing buttons here. Again, I'm going to push X1, and you can see it turns blue. That means it has power flow through it. And if you follow that, then the Y1 output is also blue, which means it's on. And if you remember from the video when I pushed X1, Y1 would turn on. Now X2 got power flow through it because I'm pushing the button, and LED Y2 is on. Now remember, X3 and X4 connected to normally closed switches. So I'm going to push the button right now. The switch will open up and pass power. Turn that on. X4 or X8 will turn it on, and I can push both of them, and it won't matter because it says either one of them, and it'll turn it on. Now you see down here with X5, power flows through there. So if I operate the limit switch, okay, X6, the one on the left, the real left this time, okay, you can see it operates. If I operate X7, you see it has power flow through it, but this does not, so it's blocking power flow to the output. Now I throw my selector, and you can see that. That's pretty much it. You can download this program into your PLC and run through the tests that I just did, and it'll give you a good idea if you wired everything up properly, if your lights light up, your switches operate. You can use the LEDs on the PLC as troubleshooting. You can make sure that they're in the same states that I showed in the video. Real quick, LED 1 and 2 are off if nothing's being actuated. And then 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all on as long as the selector switch is in the right-hand position, or in that case it's closed. If you just replace the selector switch with a toggle switch, default position is for it to be closed.